The pandemic allowed us to see what scientists around the world have said over the years. The interdependence between humanity and biodiversity is so profound that the threats of biodiversity are our own. Responsible human resources are part of our future. Therefore, it is important for the people to learn how ecological literacy is important to take care of our environment. Dream Environment Corporation established comprehensive presentations that aim to provide knowledge to the people on how to bring out our appreciation on nature in this time of crisis. Good afternoon, everyone. Good afternoon to our attentive participants of nature. I am Erica Halalim, your host for today's meaningful event, together with my co-host.
I am Dr. Diawan.
The Dream Environment Corporation is very much delighted to bring you this virtual eco-literacy webinar entitled Nature and Pandemic, Learning and Giving Importance to Eco-Literacy in a Time of Crisis.
The people behind this are all excited to welcome you in this humble endeavor.
Now, ladies and gentlemen, let us feel the presence of our mighty God as we offer Him a song of praise.
Our ever-loving Father, the core of every reason, the source of truth. You who made the earth and the heavens are the ultimate goal of every knowledge seekers, the infinite wisdom, the cause of all that is good. We are truly grateful for this opportunity to gather together as a community despite the challenges we face each day. Yet you remained and gave us strength to carry on the responsibilities of bearing intelligence and using them for better purposes. We now humbly ask you to join us in our endeavor to explore the wonders of life in the world for knowledge's sake, that in whatever we learn today, we become more grounded to you, who is truth, who is love. We pray that you bless our speakers, the fount of your infinite knowledge, that they can share something worthwhile despite the limited time we have. They can channel all they know and share to us the beauty and truth of living as your child. We pray that you guide our participants, the seekers of your boundless knowledge, that they may continue to persevere in the search and be deemed worthy to share what they learn from today's session. Sanctify us, O Lord, not because we are worthy of it, but because we believe in your love and mercy, that at the end of the day, we can take home something that's amazing and meaningful. This we ask and pray through Christ our Lord. Amen.
Okay, now, let us show our respect for our national flag as we sing the national anthem through the audiovisual presentation.
Mga kababayan, ang pambansang awit ng Pilipinas.
just a little housekeeping before we get started. Please turn off your microphones to avoid unnecessary noise during the presentation. If you have any questions during the presentation, please type them on the chat box in your Google Meet control panel. So we will bring them up after the presentation and we will have time to answer your queries at the end. This would be the time the host may ask you to turn on your microphones and cameras. Now, without further ado, let us start our event.
To formally start the webinar and to affirm the significance of this event, we are pleased to have our dynamic, cool and supportive coordinator of Dream Environment Corporation, Mr. John Nagtabasan, to deliver his opening remarks.
Greetings to one and all. Before our speakers discuss their topics, I would like to express my heartfelt gratitude to all of you who sincerely committed to this event to make it a success. This event would have been impossible without the support of each and everyone present here. I'll no longer extend this speech, but what I can ensure to you is that this webinar will be profitable and fruitful for everyone present here. Thank you and have a good day.
Thank you so much for your wonderful opening remarks, sir. And now, let us listen to our first speaker for this event, presenting about eco-literacy and sustainable development. I hope you will have the energy and enthusiasm to sustain our today's event. Let us welcome the ever-supportive, creative, and true warrior of nature, the President of the Environment Corporation, Ms. Vanessa Alibadbad.
Thank you very much, Miss Erica, for the introduction. I appreciate it. I am really happy and great and glad to be speaking with you today about our topic, eco-literacy and sustainable development. So first, let us define what is eco-literacy. According to Fritjof Capra, an American physicist, ecoliteracy is the ability to understand ecology's basic principles and to live accordingly. Also, according to Bill Graham, a marine biologist, it is the ability to understand the natural systems that make life on Earth possible. To be ecoliterate, you should be able to understand ecological communities, to create sustainable human communities, to let nature become our teacher, to form legacy by sharing our knowledge to other individuals. Furthermore, Joel Barnes says that ecoliteracy is fostered when we integrate an inquiry-based approach on developing students' understanding and awareness of all the environmental elements and their interconnectedness. Environmental education strengthens the ecoliteracy of students and of the community where they belong. In connection with this, sustainable development was created to achieve the goal of the society to live accordingly. So, let us define what is sustainable development. Sustainable development, according to 1987 Brundtland Commission report, is the development that meets the needs of the present without compromising the ability of future generations to meet their own needs. In other words, it is a development in which the people of today was able to sustain all our needs to survive, limiting wasting of resources so that in the future, there are still left for the next generations. Furthermore, based on UNESCO's definition of sustainable development, which is it has many processes and pathways. Environment, society, culture, and economy are the four intertwined dimensions of sustainable development. Thus, sustainable development pertains to the many processes and ways, such as sustainable agriculture and forestry, sustainable production and consumption, good governance, research and technology transfer, education, and training to achieve sustainability. Now, there are 5 ways to develop ecoliteracy according to Goldman. So first is the development empathy for all forms of life. It is important to realize that all living organisms, including human beings, need the same materials to survive like foods, water, and shelter. By knowing this, humans will not feel superior, but will view oneself as a member of nature. This will allow us to feel more empathetic towards other organisms. Number 2 is embrace sustainability as a community practice. It is important to note that living organisms are interconnected. This connection determines our ability to survive and to thrive. Strengthening relationships and acting cooperatively as a community is very important. And number 3 is make the invisible visible. A lot of people are still convinced of the effect on climate change, of the increase on the demand of fossil fuel. This is due to the fact that we don't often experience changes in the weather. But climate disruption over time is a different story. Thus, it is important to recognize the invisible things and make it visible. So number 4 is anticipate unintended consequences. Most of the environmental issues of today are the effects of unpremeditated human activities of yesterday. Thus, it is very important to turn to nature and recognize that the capacity of natural communities to bounce back from unintended consequences is very essential for survival. And number 5 is understand how nature sustains life. This is very important. Eco-literate individuals live in such a way that it fulfills the present generation's needs and at the same time supports the ability to nature to sustain life into the future. So there are ideas to practice sustainable abilities. And it was suggested ideas. Of course, you can have other ideas because there are a lot of ways to have practices in sustaining our living. So number 1 is become a member of a community garden. This is important, especially in our time where giving back to nature is important. Our environment has been abused for so long that it is important that we give back to our nature now. Our environment has been abused and massive environmental problems, which also affect the health of the people, are increasing. Thus, it should be time we need to work together with our community in building community garden for the healing of our nature. And number 2 is practice minimalism. One of these is changing the lights to CFL or the compact fluorescent lamp, and also becoming more efficient with your errands. So number 3 is reduce, reuse, and recycle. This has been always applied for some, but continuously application of this is necessary. Of course, it is important to continually act our first step in making sustainable living and in preserving the nature and continuously doing it until the time that our nature become cleaner and healthier. So number 4 is skip single-use items. This is ditching the plastics, choosing renewable energy, and replace all possible disposables. Number 5 is observe an eco Sabbath. This is a day or an afternoon or at least an hour of not doing anything and giving yourself and the planet a break. So by doing this, we can start to carry an eco-friendly life inclined to the making our environment cleaner and healthier. Thank you everyone for listening. I will give the floor to the host.
I thank you very much for your meaningful discussion, Miss Alibadbad. And here, let us watch a short video.
Tree cover is an essential part of what makes Earth a healthy and prosperous home for people and wildlife. But the global stock has fallen and continues to fall dramatically. In fact, we are still losing 10 billion trees per year.
Now, let us proceed to our next speaker presenting about environmental principles.
Our next speaker is from Davao del Norte State College with a course of Bachelor of Secondary Education major in mathematics. He has also shown his love towards Mother Nature for being an environmental advocate with good causes for nature. Please help me welcome our next speaker, Mr. John Joey Igos.
Thank you very much for our ever active host for that wonderful introduction. And to the participants, thank you so much for participating in this webinar. The key to understanding the environmental problems that we encounter today is to learn about our ecosystem. My discussion for today highlights the basic environmental principles that we, especially the younger generation, should live in. The first among the 7 environmental principles we are going to discuss is everything is connected to everything else. Ang lahat ng bagay ay magkakaugnay. The intricate relationships of various elements of the ecosystem bind the components together into one functional unit. The trees in the forest are home of ferns, orchids, birds, insects, and mammals. When these plants and animals die, their products of the composition contribute to soil fertility. Plants provide oxygen to animals for aerobic respiration, while animals furnish carbon dioxide to plants for photosynthesis. The living component of our ecosystem affects and is affected by the abiotic components such as air, temperature, land, and land. The interspecific relationship create a dependency with each other so that they both have to coexist to live. All these relationships provide dependencies, check and balances that compose the details of our life support systems. However, the human interaction with nature oftentimes alter the ecosystems. The ways to improperly dispose of brings about the deterioration of land and water quality. This may in turn reduce the capacity to provide life for other organisms. The second principle is that all forms of life are important. Ang lahat na may buhay ay mahalaga. All living organisms were created for a purpose in relations to humans, other species on Earth, and global ecosystem in general. Thus, when a species becomes extinct, it is like removing a piece of jigsaw puzzle from a web of life. Every creature should be given utmost importance, not just because of the beauty and the role they play as we know it. It is easy to appreciate the beautiful butterflies, especially knowing their important role in the pollination. But when it comes to unlovely and troublesome creatures, this principle is unusually overlooked. For instance, it has customary for many to step on ringling creatures just like earthworms, without even considering why God made them in the first place. People also react adversely to subsidiaries are look at with disdain. Awareness of the snake's role in limiting the rat population and of the spider's role in checking the population of mosquitoes and flies may however change this attitude. The third among the 7 environmental principles is that everything must go somewhere. Ang lahat ng bagay ay may patutunguhan. Byproducts of consumption go back to the environment. Everything that we throw away, pieces of paper, leftover food, peelings of fruits, plastic wrappers, and used containers, have to go somewhere. Even plants and animals have their own waste, urine, dead leaves, and branches. It is the law of nature that the byproducts of metabolism return to the soil, acted upon first by worms, bacteria, and fungi, and then converted into minerals to be again absorbed by plants and eaten by animals. In short, they enter into a material cycle that is an integral part of the ecosystem. But what happens if what we throw is an artificial product such as plastic? Then, natural bacteria cannot recognize them and may not be capable of breaking them apart. These non-biodegradable products must enter into another material cycle, the one that goes to the factory to be manufactured into a new product. Thus, it is very important that the retrieval, collection, and recycling of these materials become necessary so that they do not pollute land and water habitats. The fourth among the seven environmental principles states that ours is a finite earth. Ang kalikasan ay may hangganan. Everything that we need is provided by nature in abundance. Food, water, energy, minerals, and air. However, some resources that we depend upon nowadays are extracted excessively but are slow to replace. These non-renewable resources experience limits of supply. For instance, fossil fuels produced over thousands of years may be exhausted in just 100 years. Some energy resources like water and wood may be replaced easier but have become inaccessible due to pollution and excessive extraction. Several solutions have been suggested to solve this problem. First, the reduction of consumption, increased use of renewable energy, emission trading, and pollution controls. Biodiversity conservation is anchored on the principle that the lost species are irreplaceable. Thus, we should trample lightly on Earth by using only what we need. The philosophy of sapat, meaning enough, suggests that we should buy and consume only what we need and leave some for the less privileged and next generation. The fifth among the seven environmental principles states that nature knows best. Ang kalikasan ang mas nakakaalam. This principle is the most basic and in fact encompasses all the others. Humans have to understand nature and have to abide by the rules nature dictates. In essence, one must not go against the natural process if one would like to ensure a continuous and steady supply of resources. One natural process that needs serious attention is nutrient cycling. In nature, nutrients pass from the environment to the organism and back to the environment. Any disruption in the cycle can bring about imbalance. The use of chemical pesticides and fertilizers disrupts checks and balances in the ecosystem. Pesticides can kill vital organisms directly or induce genetic changes that result in resistant pests or organisms. Chemical fertilizers increases the acidity of the soil through making a number of nutrients unavailable and thus unfit for the survival of plants and other organisms. Sixth among the seven environmental principles states that nature is beautiful and we are stewards of God's creation. Ang kalikasan ay maganda at tayo ay tagapangasiwa ng lahat ng nilikha ng Diyos. Creation presupposes the existence of a creator. The beautiful nature around us, perfect by itself, has deteriorated due to the negative impacts of human use. This principle suggests how a human-creator relationship is translated in our attitude towards creation. Humans are not owners, but guardians of the integrity of nature. However, in the beautiful nature around us, perfect by itself, has deteriorated due to the negative impacts of human use. It is the goal of the environmental education and biodiversity conservation education to motivate the target audiences toward developing an eco-spirituality that moves them into a more meaningful relationship with nature and a greater participation in the biophysical, economic, processes that makes this world a better place, a better place to live in. The last but not the least among the 7 environmental principles states that everything changes. Ang lahat ay nagbabago. As they say, there is nothing more permanent in this world than change. Change is constant. Consider the following examples. Metamorphosis of caterpillars to butterflies illustrates morphological changes that occurs in living forms. Human-induced alteration, such as climate change, may cause more massive repercussions. Land use change from forest to agricultural land to human settlements change the composition of vegetation and animals. Human-induced changes can be managed so that the negative impacts are minimized and positive changes accentuated. Sustainable development presents a paradigm of changes for the 21st century. Sustainable development promotes ecological integrity, equitable sharing of resources, and people empowerment are pillars of growth. Thank you for listening, and I hope that you learned something to live on in this presentation. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Mr. Eagles, for your knowledgeable and an eye-opener discussion. Now, let's watch another short video regarding today's topic. Okay, now let us proceed to our last speaker in this webinar event.
Our last speaker for the webinar will be discussing about making schools dark green schools. Introducing our last speaker, he is also from the top producing competent school of Davao del Norte State College with a course of Bachelor of Secondary Education major in mathematics. Aside of being an environmental advocate, he is also the Vice President of the Environment Corporation. Let us welcome Mr. Michael Pamoka.
So thank you for the introduction, host. So before I start, for our last and final topic, I would like to thank you all for participating. And I would like to lend your ears on me. So our topic is eco-literacy, making schools dark green schools. So next slide, please. So what is green school? According to the Center for Green Schools, a green school is a school that supports global sustainability by looking at the future and by creating learning activities for students so they can lead a world progressing towards a healthier, cleaner, and more sustainable future. A green school begins with the future in mind, designing a learning experience for students that will prepare them to lead the world toward a healthier, cleaner, and more sustainable future. In other words, sustainable development need to address all this in pursuit of a better quality of life. The green school is visualized as a second guided by the principles of environmental sustainability. It seeks to sensitize teachers and students for environmental sustainability through the active involvement of the community. In such an environment, students' learning experience, they are no longer confined to the classroom, but extend outside the classroom in the field as well. Next slide, please. So there are three pillars in measuring the school's progress. First, reduce environmental impact. Reducing environmental impact includes reducing energy and water use, cutting back on fossil fuel used in transportation, reducing waste headed to landfill, and protecting natural habitat. These actions have an effect on humans and Earth. We know that cutting energy usage in buildings reduces energy loads on power plants, reducing carbon emission and other environmental impacts of power generation. We know that cutting water usage in buildings reduces aquifer depletion, protects freshwater habitats, and reduces the energy used to treat and transport water. We also know that reducing waste going to landfill saves our open land for habitat and other purposes and reduces water and soil contamination. We also know that effort of reducing landfill waste encourages direct uses and puts more material in the recycling stream. So next is increased health and well-being. Increased health and well-being. Protecting students and teacher health includes ensuring a clean and healthy indoor environment in the school, as well as providing programs and services for good nutrition and physical activity. Paying attention to health in school has an impact on well-being and learning. We know that the access to clean and safe drinking water can increase water intake, which benefits overall health. We also know that lead contamination in water has demonstrable impacts on cognitive development, attention, and behavior, as well as a variety of impacts on health. We also know that the exposure of daylight affects the production of important hormones that impact alertness, sleep, or awake cycles. So next is environmental sustainability for all graduates. Teaching students about sustainability and the activity gives them the tools that they needed to solve the global challenges we face now and in the future. Education that supports this type of literacy includes both curriculum and instructional practices that are interdisciplinary, place-based, and rooted in the context that uniquely surrounds each student. This education impacts students' understanding and action. We know that increasing students' environmental knowledge while also employing instructional practices that focus on interdisciplinary and place-based problem solving can influence behavior change toward sustainability. We know that students for whom the environment is a context for learning perform better on measures of general academic performance. So let's proceed. So what is dark green school? According to the Environment Management Bureau, the dark green school is a school that delivers environmental education through a simulation of the environmental philosophy by the students day in and day out in formal lessons as well as the activities outside from the classroom. That this school acquire the necessary knowledge, skills, and motivation to work for the integrity of the environment in the country, for whole God's creation, and for the sake of the present and future generation. Next. So let's proceed. So characteristic of a dark green school. First is neat and clean. Second, calls for green spaces, appropriate land use, conservation of materials and energy, proper waste management, segregation, appropriate use of materials and avoidance of harmful ones, and respect others' right to smoke-free air. By incorporating green building measures in school designs such as installing energy recovery ventilation equipment that could effectively reduce the infiltration of air contaminants from outdoors and improve indoor quality, with the school being provided with extensive outdoor spaces, including playgrounds, outdoor classroom, athletic field, tracks, and landscape, and develop green spaces, more areas would become available for students. And the third one is calls for management policies and guidelines. The fourth has well-planned environmental curriculum for all levels. Next, faculty and students' awareness and appreciation of the environmental programs of the school, and community extension on information drive about Mother Earth and conducts projects to improve environment and engages in research about nature and the impact of human activities. While the coronavirus pandemic has reshuffled global priorities, we cannot put off our effort on taking care of our environment. These times present us with an unprecedented opportunity to collectively hit the reset button and make changes to build back a better, more resilient world. So before I end my presentation, I would like to leave you a quote: the environment and the economy are really both two sides of the same coin. If we cannot sustain the environment, we cannot sustain ourselves. By Wangari Maathai. I hope you learned something that you can apply in your real world. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Failmoka, for your wonderful insights and meaningful discussion on making the schools dark green schools. Now let us proceed on taking your questions, but before that, let's watch a video. Okay, at this juncture, we will go ahead on taking your questions. Are there any questions you would like to answer by our speakers? If you have, just type your questions into the chat box in your control panel. Anyone? Is there any questions regarding to the topic of our speakers? No? Anyone? Okay, it seems that there is no questions. We hope that everyone has attained meaningful knowledge, appreciating more and giving more love towards our nature. Now, let us hear from Mr. Basingan giving us information on one of the Nobel course offered by the school.
Good day, it's Nova Nova. These are the goals and objectives of Bachelor of Secondary Education major in Mathematics. So, for the first goal, mathematics majors will exhibit competence in mathematical concepts and procedures. To achieve this goal, mathematics majors will demonstrate in detail-basic mathematical procedures, and mathematics majors will also provide examples to illustrate the application of mathematical concepts and procedures. As a future educator, it is our task to explain and illustrate clearly, accurately, and comprehensively the basic mathematical concepts using relevant examples as needed and show the connection between mathematical concepts that are related to one another. So for the goal number two, mathematics majors will exhibit proficiency in relating mathematics to other curricular areas. So to achieve this goal, mathematics majors will create a curriculum guide that shows how mathematics can be integrated with other curricular areas. And also, mathematics majors will utilize appropriate technologies to achieve the learning outcomes. And as a future educator, we will identify and create teaching activities that support the implementation of the curriculum guide. And it is also our task to develop and utilize instructional materials that support the integration of mathematics with other curricular areas. So for the goal number three, mathematics majors will manifest meaningful and comprehensive pedagogical content knowledge of mathematics. So to achieve this goal, mathematics majors will create and utilize learning experiences in the classroom, which develop the learner's skills in discovery learning, problem solving, and critical thinking. We will demonstrate skills in various methods in learning in mathematics. As conducting educator, we are motivated to teach and share precise and relevant information about mathematics in accordance with the curriculum.
So for goal number four, mathematics major will demonstrate competence in designing, constructing, and systems of assessment. So to achieve this goal, mathematics majors will design, utilize varied assessment tools in mathematics including alternative forms of assessment. And mathematics majors will also analyze assessment results and use these to improve learning and teaching. So as a motivated future educator, we will provide timely feedback of assessment results to students in order for the students to have a specific knowledge about their own learning so that they can achieve the learning standards competence in accordance to the curriculum. So for the goal number five, mathematics majors will demonstrate proficiency in problem solving by solving and creating routine and non-routine problems with different levels of complexity. To achieve this goal, mathematics majors will demonstrate skills in various problem-solving heuristics. And also, mathematics majors will use various sources for selecting and creating problems to develop the students' problem-solving skills. So as a mathematics future educators, it is our task to select suitable examples to explain various problem solving to and learning of the students, and manifest creativity and critical thinking when selecting examples and problems to be used in the assessment of students' learning. So for the goal number 6, okay. So for the goal number 6, mathematics majors will use effectively appropriate approaches, methods, and techniques in teaching mathematics, including technological tools. To achieve this goal, mathematics majors will demonstrate knowledge and skills in varied approaches and methods of teaching mathematics. And mathematics majors also will demonstrate skills in the use of common mathematical software for teaching and learning mathematics. Mathematical concept, for example, Grammatica, GeoGebra, and Geometer's Sketchpad. As a future educator, we will manifest discretion when selecting approaches or methods that would be effective in teaching particular lessons in accordance to the curriculum. And utility-centered approaches and methods in the classroom, considering the students' capabilities and commonalities in order to achieve an appropriate approaches. For the goal number 7, mathematics majors will appreciate mathematics as an opportunity for creative work, moments of discovery, and gaining insights of the world. So to achieve this goal, majors will develop that can help students appreciate the use of mathematics in daily life. As a future educators, we will integrate real-life situations or problems in teaching mathematics to students and develop teaching learning activities that encourages students to gain insights of how a certain mathematical concepts in this generation. So moreover, these goals and objectives helps the future mathematics educators to have an insight of what are the best possible we can do and offer to our future students and learners. Thank you for listening and God bless us all. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Basilan. As one of the students under this course, it indeed provides blissful feelings knowing that we someday will hold competent individuals for the better days of the future.
That is very true, partner. It gives us hope that better days will come and that being part of creating better world is a genuine achievement. Now, as a gratitude of our company in attending to this webinar entitled Nature and Pandemic, Learning and Giving Importance to Eco-Literacy in Time of Crisis, we would like to give our speaker a certificate of appreciation, and I read, this certificate is proudly awarded to our webinar speakers for sharing his or her valuable knowledge as a speaker during the webinar entitled Nature and Pandemic, Learning and Giving Importance to Eco-Literacy in the Time of Crisis on 24th of June, year 2021. We also like to give to all participants a certificate of participation in attending our event, and I read, this certificate is proudly awarded to all of you participating in webinar entitled Nature and Pandemic, Learning and Giving Importance to Eco-Literacy in the Time of Crisis on the 24th of June, year 2021.
Okay, before we properly end this webinar, let's have a raffle draw. So, sino kaya ang mananalo sa ating kunting premyo na load? So, let's have to
Yes.
scramble the papers with the names. Now,
I'll be reading the first winner for 50 pesos worth of load would be Kobe Cryant Estela. Kobe Cryant Estela. Cyrant, a Kobe Cyrant Estela. Just comment your number or message your number on our page, Facebook page, the Environment Corporation page. Or you can type it on the chat box. Okay? Code Brian to Stella. Got it? Okay. Next. We have Mia Christine Mia Christine Kenko. Just message your number on our Facebook page, the Dream Environment Corporation Facebook page, or just type your number in the chat box below. Okay, thank you. Next, for the last winner for the raffle is Mr. Dexter Borlas. Okay, just message your number, sir, to our Facebook page or just chat your number in the chat box below. Okay, thank you. So to properly end our webinar, the Dream Environment Corporation would like to extend our sincere gratitude to the participant who attended, speaker who provided significant insight, and to the people who made this event successful.
Okay, it is truly an honor to be your host for today's event, creating another history in taking steps towards understanding the significance in caring, loving, and making action to healthier and greener environment. Okay, so let's watch another video so, for the summary of this webinar.
Forests are critical for human life on Earth. There are no substitutes for forests, yet we are destroying them at an alarming rate. The equivalent to a football field of forests vanishes every 7 seconds. At this rate, the world's rainforests could completely vanish in the next 100 years. For us city dwellers, it's easy to ignore these facts when deforestation seems like such a foreign concept. But how does this affect us? Let's imagine for a minute that we remove every product or service that is provided to us by the forests. No more paper. No more books. No more coffee or tea. No more heating or lodging. No more food. No more water. No more oxygen. No more life. Forest and Life's mission is to restore forest ecosystems. It's time to redefine forest preservation as a human development issue, going far beyond environmental conservation. Let's start looking at trees as an opportunity to improve our daily life, the economy, and the climate. Because forests and life go together.
Tree cover is an essential part of what makes Earth a healthy and prosperous home for people and wildlife. But the global stock has fallen and continues to fall dramatically. In fact, we are still losing 10 billion trees per year.
again. Thank you very much, everyone. I am Erica Ilalim,
And I am Alfred Ralph Aliawan.
leaving you this message that the goal of life is to make your heart match the beat of the universe, to match your nature with nature.
Thank you again for joining us today, and we will see you next time.
See you.